Bonjour mesdames et messieurs. In this video, I want to show you how you can speed up your exposures, how you can speed up your retouching, how you can be out there taking more photos and less time in front of the computer. I have a whole technique that includes shooting with a mirrorless, shooting in manual mode, and retouching them in Lightroom in such a way you will see it's quite cool that it really 10x my photography. For many years, I shot in AV mode or TV mode, and I was struggling with my retouching a lot. Over the years, I developed this workflow that I want to share with you, which I think can really change your life as a photographer. You know, not knowing how to expose an amazing scene, you can miss out on beautiful sunset, on beautiful sunrise. You could be missing out a lot if you're not watching this video till the end. Check it out. It took me years to work out this system. I hope it can help you too. So for this, we're gonna go to El Matador Beach in Malibu, one of the nicest beaches in California. Come with me and let me show you my full workflow on how I shoot photos. All right, so I want to talk to you about how to spend less time in front of the computer and more time taking photos. Now, the major thing that works for me, and it is to shoot in manual mode. For many years, I shot in AV mode, mostly a little bit in TV mode, but mostly in AV mode where, you know, you set the aperture and you let the camera figure out the time. The problem with that is you are going to get, every photo is going to have a different setting. It's very rare that from one photo to another, the speed will change. Now, I like to shoot when there is a sun that's around, shooting toward the sun. It's very contrasty, and the camera's computer usually goes really berserk, doesn't know what to do, goes crazy, and is going to give you either a too overexposed photo or underexposed photo. That's why I like to set my exposure. So for example, on this one, I usually always start out at ISO 100, f7 to f10. F10, if I have a rock that's close to me, I would go f10 because I don't want everything to be too blurry in front. And you know, I do spot focus. Basically, I have a little square that I can move around, and on this, usually I focus on the rocks. And I started, you know, I came to El Matador Beach, you know, one of the nicest beaches in California, and I started at 1/400 of a second, okay? And I turned around, and these photos are really bad. They are not the photos which I will end up, you know, publishing, but it's just to show you my journey. You know, started with some really bad photos, 1/400 per second, f10, ISO 100, so they all have the same settings. You know, it was too early also. You know how it is. You know, it gets just way better when the sun is much lower. So what I do is I just go through and I give like a 1 star to a photo. If I think a photo has some kind of potential, I just press 1 on my keyboard. I'm not saying it's going to be a star. I'm not saying it's going to be the photo, but I just give it a star, you know, a 1 star. Okay, so like this one, I took this. This is way too early. The sun is still too high, but I like kind of the framing. So again, at the same, you know, ISO 125, which is a mistake. I should have been ISO 100, but the sun was making me blind. I didn't know what I was doing. F10 and 1 to 50. I took all these photos, you know, try different framings. I'm like, oh, there is some potential there. I even did a little bit of HDR sometimes because the sun was so straight. But even when I do HDR, I do it in manual mode. So I take whatever exposure I've decided as being the main exposure, and then I just put, +2, -2 and take a shot. So I'm not going to show you all the photos. I'm just going to show you the one which have a 1. So that's a lot. That's already 36 photo out of 206. I'm not going to show you all the ugly photos that I took, but I kind of like that. I like that, but the sun was still too high, So as the sun goes down, you see I started at 1/400 of a second. Of course, I'm going to go lower, try different framing. I'm like, oh, there may be something to this framing, could be cool. But you see the sun, what happens is the sun, when it's above the horizon, it's still very strong. But as soon as it's going to hit the horizon, it's going to lose a lot of intensity and it's going to make the sky a lot more orange. So I was kind of waiting for that, just playing around, doing different composition of this scene. And then I, sort of moved out a little bit of that. And I was like, oh, this rod has an interesting shape, and moved, and again, now I'm at 1/250th of a second. I'm still at the same settings. I'm still shooting. Oh, the sun you see the sun now starts getting lower. So that's kind of cool. And I like when you have it half in and half out. I was like, oh, that could be a cool shot. And oh, now there was a bird coming up. I was like, oh, good. I got the bird in the right place. Still the same settings. Unfortunately, there was a photo shoot, so I had to erase that in Photoshop. But this is from far not the best photo I got. I went to the other cave that was there, try different settings. Now I'm at much lower. Now I'm at 180 at f7.1 ISO to 125. My rule is as long as I'm like in the 140s, 125 of a second, I can shoot by hand. I just put the self timer on. So I press, it waits 1 or 2 seconds, and it takes the shot. But still, ISO around 100, 7.1. Even at 180, sometimes I put the 2-second timer on, because you don't want to, when you press the button, you move your camera and it can introduce a shake. So, when it starts getting dark, that's when I put the self timer on. My rule is stay as long as you can on 100 ISO, and, wait for take out the tripod really when it's needed and not before. Okay, so I went back to the 1/60th of a second. The sun was getting really low, and 1/60th of a second, I kind of like this sort of frame in the frame, and voila. But I was kind of disappointed that this one I kind of like. This one's kind of cool, and now I'm so on this one, what I did is, because I wanted to get the starlight effect, and this is a little trick I give you, is that if you want the sun to behave that way when it's like half in and half out, what you do is you basically go over f13. So I went to ISO 100 f18 and 1/52 to get the starlight effect. And so let's retouch this photo, for example. It could be interesting. So I'm going to open up the shadows, bring down the highlights a little bit. I'm going to do my black point by holding the option key. Remember, when you hold the option key, you can crush the blacks. What you want is you want your photo to have like 3-4% of pure blackness, and that's what I have on this one. And then I'm going to do my white point here. So it's the opposite. When it comes to white point, I'm holding the option key or the alt key on my keyboard. That's why it's all black. And what you see here is I want to get a little bit of highlights. What you see is 100% pure white, this little dots there. So not too much. Okay, now the white balance is completely off. It's way too daylight. So I'm going to add some magenta. I'm going to add some warmth to it, a little bit like this, some contrast. And now this is not how I work, but I'm just doing this so you get an idea. I work using my preset. I'll give you a little demonstration a little later on in the video. And by the way, guys, if you can take a second and like this video, it makes a whole difference. Also, if you can share it and leave me a comment, you would make my day. I try to make as much free video as I can, and it really helps other people to discover my work if you can just like it, comment it, and share it. I owe you so much. All right, so next is this one. This one I kind of like. So I want to show you also something I love to do. So I love to do sometimes Panorama or Panorama. For example, this photo here. So now I'm like at 150. Now it's the next day. I came back the next day with some other friends, and there was amazing clouds the next day. So now I'm at 1/50th of a second, f22, ISO 50. Now why am I like this? Because I'm trying to get a long exposure on the wave, and I'm doing it with a tripod, of course, because 1/15 is too short. And I didn't want to put a filter out because it was just going so fast. The time to take out the filter the sun would have been gone. So I wanted to try if I could get a bit of a lone exposure effect by going at 1/15 of a second. And the way to do that with the Sony is to go at ISO 50, which you can, which is crazy because it's going to make the sensor not sensitive at all. And then f22 to close everything, stopping the light. And I managed to get 1/15 of a second. And I really kind of like this composition, but I was like, I wish I had this rock here completely in my frame. So because I was in manual mode, what I did is I took one photo, at 1/50 of a second, f16 ISO 80, and I went up and took another photo and then a third photo, okay? Then I select all three photos. It's just for composition purposes. Right click, photo merge, panorama. And when you go to panorama, so it's not really a panorama, it's what we call a vertorama. But the only problem I was trying to solve is I wanted to get this rock completely in the frame. Now you've got different projection mode here. Usually I always try to use perspective. Perspective gives better horizon line. See, the horizon is going to be a little bit crooked. Perspective is just much better. And the only problem with perspective is sometimes it's not going to work if you're too wide. I think I was at 24 millimeter and that was kind of the limit. Sometimes perspective doesn't work. But in this case, it did work, which is really cool. By the way, there's this new option that just came out, which is really cool, called Fill Edge, where you can use contour-aware fill to basically create all the missing pixel, which is kind of really cool. And I'm going to click here on merge. I'm going to click create stack, which is going to make like a little stack. It puts all the photos together, which is cool. I mean, the content-aware fill is going to do some weird things, but it really helps sometimes when you have to do your cropping. So I'm going to merge this. So this option of content-aware fill in Lightroom just came out like a week ago as part of Lightroom 9. And so you can see the difference. There was a lot of white there, and Lightroom just created all the missing pixels. But you can see it like added the tree 3 times. So, but it still helps because I get more sky. I get a lot more data, which is really cool. So let's go back and let's retouch the one that has been retouched with Lightroom 9. That's only if you're a Creative Cloud member, of course. And so let's retouch this photo, how I would sort of do it. Open the shadows. And I don't do that because I use preset, but for people who doesn't like preset, I want to show you my thought behind it. So I do my white point, I do my black point, I do the contrast, I open up the shadows. I don't know if that's going to work. Stay tuned. Okay, I'm going to erase that spot here. I think on this one, I want to go Instagram style. Now, if you follow my work, and this is something I got I would say about a year ago, I did a coaching session with somebody who had 300,000 followers on Instagram. And he made an analysis of my Instagram feed and he said, you have way too much photos which are, in 4:3, 16:9, in panorama format on your feed. And look, all your photos which get the most like are the ones which are all in 4:3. And since that day, I've posted only in 4:3 on my Instagram, and I really saw an improvement. So what does I mean by posting by 4:5, which is the format? And so this one, I wanted to get the rock here completely, and I wanted to have it for Instagram. So I'm going to take my crop tool. I'm going to go 4:5. It's funny because 4:5 is the old format that Ansel Adam used to use. I have a 4:5 camera. It's a cool format. And you press X, and it's going to make it going into a portrait mode. And now I want this rock in full. This is really for Instagram. And you see we got all this sky that was created by Lightroom, which is really cool. And what else would I do? Maybe add a bit of vibrance to it. I think maybe add a little bit of blue or warmth. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think I want to make the whole photo a little bit brighter. And then I'm going to go to my local adjustment. I'm going to make a gradient here. Lower a little bit. Maybe add back some blue just on top. Now, when you make a gradient, I'll show you, I'm going to overdo it. It's going to make the top of the rock dark. So don't forget, you have the amazing option of range masking. You go here, you go to luminance, and you can just go like this. Boom. And that's going to basically get this gradient to go behind that rock. Check it out. I'm going to do it. So you'll see, without the range masking, you see how the top of the rock is darker? Check it out. Now, as I move to the right, I still have a bit of effect of the gradient, but it doesn't touch the rock, which is cool. Okay, I'm going to make another little gradient here with the same value just to close the photo a little bit. And I think I want to put, I want to make the horizon a little straight. It's not straight at all. I'm just realizing. So I'm going to use this tool to make the horizon straight. Yes. Okay, that's better. So the rock is not straight, but I believe the rocks are not straight. Maybe it's weird. I don't know. I get a little feeling that it's not exactly right. It's funny because the rocks are so crooked that everything looks kind of bizarre. But this is how, I mean, honestly, you can do whatever you want with the cropping. But whenever I don't have the horizon, not straight, I've got so many people leaving me comments like, your horizon is not straight. Go see someone right now, please. So, that's how it is. Okay, I want to make a little circle here for the sun. I'm going to double click on effect. I think I'm just going to add a little bit of yellow. Look at this. It just makes the whole thing yellow. Maybe a little bit of saturation, a little bit of exposure. Just a tad. Check it out. Before that little circle, after. Just makes the sunshine even more. Okay. Now, once I've done that, of course, I could synchronize this whole retouch that I did, on, I could press Command-Shift-C. Command-Shift-C is to copy. I would take everything that I did here and I would go, for example, on this photo and press Command-V and boom, it would be retouched. That's the old one. So that's the advantage. So that's a good trick, but it's not as fast as I really work. Let me show you how I really work. How I really work is I take a photo like this. So this is the same scene, but a little later on. And then I just, you see here is all my natural preset, which you can find some of it free under the video and some you can get my whole package. Like I think it took me 7 years to build 280 presets. You can get them for $27. It's a steal. Anyways, so what I did is for every moment of the day, I created like 5 blue hour preset, 5 day preset, 5 golden hour preset, And on this one, and as you put your mouse over the preset without even clicking, you can see if you have like a recent version of Lightroom that's came up about a year ago, you can see how it's going to look like. I don't like, I think it's too much, but look at this, So day basic is just going to be a basic correction, but there is no linear gradient, meaning there's no gradient here. But if I go to day linear, look at the difference between day linear, between day basic, look at the sky, and day linear, it's a little darker, okay? And then we have day linear circle, which is basically going to be, I'm going to click because that's what I'm going to apply. It's going to make the top dark, the bottom dark, and it's going to add a circle somewhere to make some like natural dodge and burn. Now this one I want to put over the sky here and maybe add some bit of more yellow to it, something like that. And of course, I would sort of crop the photo. So, I mean, it just economized me so much time because I don't have to do all that I've done earlier because I know it's in my preset. And even more, I mean, my preset has got my sharpening nailed down, it's got my noise reduction nailed down, it's got all my corrections, my chromatic, it's all there. I don't have to, okay, I kind of like that. And now I can go Command-Shift-C, copy everything except, I advise you not to copy the cropping because cropping is really per photo, and not to copy the brush in case you have got any brush, but everything else can be copied to the next photo. So now, I don't have to spend like half an hour doing the same thing to the next photo. It's all here. The problem is that when you copy from a landscape photo to a portrait photo, that's a bug, I think, in Lightroom, is that the circle has to be changed. So anyway, the circles, you have to move them around. This one doesn't match here. Maybe I can put this circle here. Okay, you just have to move the circle around, and of course you have to do your cropping because we haven't done the cropping. So this one I'm going to go Instagram 4x5. Want it to go viral on Instagram, so a little 4x5 like this, and good. And so voila, that's how it takes me. So shooting manual is really fast. Sometimes, for example, let me give you another example which I really like. I was as I was about to wrap up, 2 nice people came and they started playing around with these LED lamps. I was like, can I take a photo? And he was like, sure, go for it. Oh, by the way, I follow your YouTube channel. So that was kind of cool. And so this is ISO 50 f14 6.0. I took 4 photos at these settings. I went large. I went at 25 millimeter. Here I am at 25 millimeter, but I just moved my body. I moved back. I was at 25 millimeter the whole way. And I just tried different settings. And now what I can do is I can go here. I can either use a preset or I can, open up the shadows, bring down the highlights. Not too much on this one because you don't want to do it. I can do my black. I want some strong blacks. I can do my whites, something like this. Maybe make it a little bit brighter. I want it to be brighter. Maybe get the highlights even brighter like this. I think it's a little too blue, so I'm going to add a little bit of yellow, a bit of magenta. Okay, I like that. And now what I can do is I can also select all other 4 photos. I can click on synchronize if you don't want to do the Command-C, the Command-V thing. Same thing, I'm just gonna make sure crop is not on. Anyway, I didn't crop it. Brush is not on. Anyway, I didn't brush it. Click on synchronize. And now all the photos are gonna have the exact same retouch. Now I can press N on my keyboard, which is the survey mode. N for survey mode makes complete sense to me. Shift tab to go in full screen mode, and I can say, okay, which one has the best composition? Which one is the winner? Which one am I gonna post on social media? I'm guessing this is it. This is it, this is it, so I'm gonna give it a 2. Okay, and then I'm Shift tab to go back into normal mode. Click here, or you can press the E key to go back in single view mode. And now I can fine tune my photos. But now I took a decision having all my photos basically retouched. Not completely retouched, but a lot retouched. Voila, I'm loving this. So I hope you learned something. Really, I advise you go out there, shoot if you can with a mirrorless, because it's a lot easier to with a mirrorless, because with a mirrorless you can really see what you do. I highly recommend Sony. I am not sponsored by Sony. If you're working at Sony, please contact me urgently. I would love to get sponsored by Sony. I've been talking about Sony because I love the Sony 7R3. So mirrorless, you can really see your exposure. So I really like that. The horizon is a little bit not straight, but whatever. And so you can really nail your exposure exactly how you want it, and then you just have to work on your composition, and then you can work with presets, and it's gonna 10x, I promise, the time you spend in front of a computer. I hope you enjoy this. Please give it a like. Please leave me a comment. I read every single comment. Believe it or not, I read all your comments. I answer to most of them because it also inspires me to make more videos. I try to make 1 to 2 videos per week. And also check out, 2 weeks ago, I did a very similar video on a photo shoot in Hollywood. Check it out.